Welcome everyone to another BitShares Open Agenda Hangout on the Beyond Bitcoin Network. Today is Saturday, April 14th, 2018. And doing the BitShares Open Agenda Hangout. This is essentially every week to opportunity to have a voice in the BitShares network. We have an RSVP thread that goes out on the WhaleShares beta chain and also on steemit.com on the Steem blockchain. And you can go there and RSVP every week and put yourself out there to talk about different things that are of value to yourself within the BitShares ecosystem, and also things of value that you are bringing to the BitShares ecosystem. We're trying to turn Hangouts and meetups around into being one of the most important and foundational elements of media for today, and trying to give the power to you guys to all learn how to reward one another with the cool technologies that we offer, and kind of show you guys a template of how we reward those and change everything and kind of tip it on its head. So what we leverage every week is a cross-chain token that is a utility token that works on various mutual aid society chains. And what we do is we give these tokens out. They are worth upvotes and essentially advertising on these various social networks that are being created using graphene technology like Steem, Golos, and WhaleShares. And we give these out to people who join up and give the information that they think is most valuable to the ecosystem. And we do this every week. So anytime that you would like to, if you're doing something of value, or you know someone who is doing something of great value in the ecosystem that is known as BitShares, or with projects that directly connect up and use BitShares heavily, please let us know. Please have them RSVP and have them get not only rewarded in a little bit of cryptocurrency, but also in recognition that they might deserve and that might actually help the people who they're trying to build projects for. So with that said, we join up and we talk about this every week, and we have an agenda for every week. Today, we have an agenda that I'm just going to really quickly start moving into doing this a little bit more. We have community initiatives that we've been doing for a while, but we're starting to ramp them up a little bit more as we get more tokens, more ecosystems that are coming online using our the technology that is at the foundation of this amazing blockchain. So what we do is we bring these different technologies together and we leverage them to create competitions, initiatives, cool things that we think will bring the community an opportunity to do something that helps everybody, and also to maybe learn a little bit of skills in a certain way, or do something little of value that doesn't take too much effort and get something in return for it. So what we're going to start doing is we're going to start talking and just giving a real quick update on those every week. So really quickly, before we get into the agenda, I'm just going to go really quickly over the general announcements and community initiatives, and that is the BitsharesTalk.io logo design vote. We have a forum called BitsharesTalk.io, and it is based on a graphene blockchain called WhaleShares. That is, all of the tokens are going to be share dropped 100% on BitShares users. So we have that chain that is going to exist. BitShares Talk is going to exist on it, and we're going to leverage the ledger to enable those people who are receiving the share drop in these tokens to be able to kind of help out with doing some cool things between the WhaleShares chain and BitShares. We're going to have things like adding the exchange to the BitsharesTalk.io site. But before we do that, we're right now looking for BitsharesTalk.io logos. And we have a couple that we really like, but we would like to see more people choosing and giving their input on this specific matter. Now, with that said, We also have a BitShares meme challenge. For those of you who are already the type of person who likes to post stupid memes or brilliant memes, whatever, right? It's all open. We want people to laugh. We want people to have a little arsenal of various memes that they can throw out into the interwebs and give people kind of a memorable way of remembering BitShares and also capturing a message that's very succinct and to the point about BitShares. And then just really quickly, an announcement that OpenLedger has announced support for EOSDAC airdrop and the new OPEN.eosDAC token. And another update from OpenLedger is that they are now they have come out with a press release saying that they will be 100% honoring the share drop of EOS primary tokens on the native chain onto the ERC20 tokens. So if you're holding OpenLedger or Open.eos, you do not have to worry about registering tokens or a wallet. You can hold them there. So with that said, though, we have, I want to just thank everybody who's participated in those, who is helping with these various initiatives that we're undertaking. And I want to thank OpenLedger for trying to create that synergy between EOS and BitShares. I think BitShares is in a great spot to become one of the decentralized exchanges that is one of the chief ones that these tokens can use. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead into the BitShares agenda for today. Up first is going to be IntelliGuy, how and why to promote BitShares. After that is going to be Dehaz 159, and he's going to be talking about the Ezira project updates and the Hangout. And then we're going to discuss a couple things from Talkinator today. And it's going to be, the first one is multiple releases of the BitShares UI or GUI reference wallet. The next one would be the DEXBot, which is an automated trading bot for BitShares. We'll get into why that's important. Another one is, and the final one is, the BitShares Blockchain Foundation launches BitShares public presentation plan. So with that said, let's go ahead and I'll step back and I'll say, IntelliGuy, feel free to step up and to the plate, give everybody a little bit of an understanding of where you're coming from on your angle with the BitShares promotions. Okay, well, he's not apparently online, so I don't know if there's a technical issue for him or if he overslept, but just to keep in mind for everybody, we do reward people who join up and they sign up. I cannot, in good conscience, reward people who do not show up and sign up. So nothing against IntelliGuy. Obviously, he's a key member of the community, somebody who comes around quite a bit. But I do want to let people know that if you do sign up, I'm going to take away my votes if you're not here. However, if you guys don't mind, we can talk about this for a moment. Is there anybody who would like to say anything about this topic in general?
Well, this is just a... Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I was going to say is I think it's really critical that we promote BitShares to not only the internet, but also in real life at crypto meetups and things like that. That's what I've been doing fairly extensively in Melbourne. So a lot of people, they like the idea of BitShares, they just haven't heard of it yet. So once you explain it to people, it generally gets really, it becomes very obvious why people should start using it. It's one of the easiest platforms to sign up to make an account. You don't need to worry about all the complicated public addresses. You just get a simple username. It's like a cryptocurrency that really anyone can use, and it's so easy to use that it's really I have no idea why more people haven't heard of it. So it's really critical that we start talking about it in real life. Doing things like the meme competition, I think, is a great initiative to bring it to a wider audience. Whereas people are used to things like Ethereum and Bitcoin, they're like BitShares hasn't been around for that much less time than Ethereum has, yet it has such a much bigger user base. And the reason is because there isn't a central company pushing a marketing budget and a marketing message to everybody. So we need to, I think, really like organize together as a community to bring a marketing message to the people. So I'll hand it back to IntelliGuy if he's here.
Perfect.
Go ahead, IntelliGuy. Must be having some computer problems.
Okay, well, Harrison, feel free to continue if you want to.
Yeah, I'll just keep going if that's okay with everyone. So yeah, what I've been trying to do in the Ezira project in particular is have competitions where people share an idea or a piece of content related to the network, and then give people rewards based on the amount of likes and retweets and things that they get like that, to encourage people to share it into their networks. And that's how a lot of the organic interest in Ezira has been building. So I think if BitShares took the sort of approach that I found to be quite successful with my project, in that you make sort of graphics that describe the advantages of the network or the use cases or things like that, and then have people share those widely, I think that's a really good way to get an organic marketing approach. So it's very decentralized. So you have people contribute content, or you can make it yourself, and have people repost it across different platforms to either Facebook or Twitter or things like that. And then reward the ones that get the most likes and retweets. I feel like that's a good way that BitShares could go about this.
Yeah, what we're planning on doing is if you see in EOSTalk.io, we have like a little archives place where you could post stuff, right? And you can use it. And we're going to just have an archive right there on BitsharesTalk.io where we grab these and put them in there. That way we have it. So like, I mean, who doesn't want, I look at it almost like ammunition, you know, you have this container of meme ammunition that you can throw in people's faces, make them laugh and prove a point at the same time.
Yeah, you see a lot of essentially meme stockpiling and meme sort of building up is a lot of what has backed a lot of 4chan-based operations. They have threads on 4chan where they just post meme after meme after meme, and they build up ammunition, and then they bring it over to other platforms like Twitter and Facebook to bring people of their own accord back to a particular idea or a particular group or some sort of thing like that. I've seen 4chan use it effectively. I've seen other groups use it quite well, where you build up a giant base of meme content and image-based content for widespread sharing across the internet. And I think that BitShares could really benefit from a campaign like that, and I'd be happy to take a few steps in leading it if people felt that was necessary.
Oh, we will have the way that I advocate it personally is that all of us, we are going to have tokens. So we should all have our tokens and leverage our tokens to do things like this. And then we can come together like Voltron with our different tokens at some point in time, and like actually start giving multiple different tokens, like tokens in whale shares and in Ezira and Steam, and like it might as well like all sponsor this one because we all like it and we all depend on these types of things, you know, for certain initiatives. Like it might even become just political things where we're like, yeah, we, you know, some of these chains compete, but they all have this common interest and they all have one powerful token that they each have, you know? So it's like, we can leverage this in really cool ways. And and it's going to take it, I think, even further than memes, but damn, you're right. Memes are so powerful,
memes, man. Infographics, and sort of like what I like to call like a cross between memes and infographics are the use case graphics that I've been making for the Ezira project, where you basically get something that's halfway between an infographic and a meme where you put like a personification, a human face on a particular use case for, in my case, Ezira, but BitShares could do this too. I could make some of these for BitShares if there was
Heck yeah.
there was interest in it. And you take like a personification of a use case, for example, someone who might want to use a DEX because they're tired of using centralized exchanges, whether a deposit and withdrawal limits. You have a human face on the picture, and then describe in a few short sentences who they are, what they love, what they want to do, why they want to do it, and how your platform can benefit them, and then finish with a short tagline. I think Ezira needs to sort of be branching out across to help market BitShares, because I feel like we have a lot in common in our interests, because we use the BitShares platform, and Ezira's been doing a few bits of marketing, including getting a post on the front page of Steemit that very positively referred people into BitShares. We recently had I'll get into it in the update section, but essentially a press release that was bringing people back to BitShares. So there's a lot of interest that coinciding across not only Ezira and BitShares, but the entire graphene ecosystem, because the best part of the graphene ecosystem is that we're all based on the same code base. So every change we make, every application we make, every upgrade we make to enhancing the protocol is open source, and it can be used to help everyone else. So there's not even a need to compete. We're all collaborating for the same team.
Yeah. It's like almost like there's competitive collaboration.
Yeah.
And that's like, what better reason to reward people with bundles of tokens then?
Looks like IntelliGuy's here. Yeah, take the floor, IntelliGuy.
Of course. You're almost there, IntelliGuy.
When you're ready, take it away. Is your mic playing up?
Sounds like it.
Yeah, your mic's not working, man.
Try closing the Discord program and then ending the process and then opening it again. I find that helps.
Well, during this little intermission, what I will ask everybody to do, let's see here. I'm just going to give everybody real quickly.
It's all good and fine, IntelliGuy, but we'd like to hear that from your own mouth here. Unfortunately, you're having difficulties.
Yeah. So what IntelliGuy said is that the marketing hasn't been lacking. It has been lacking, but not for the effort, and that people should study the foundation website. That's what IntelliGuy said here. So I think what he might be referring to is the BitShares Foundation's website, to try and bring people back to that. That'd be bitshares.org, I'm supposing. Yeah. That's another point that I was getting to earlier in my discussion. That because there's no central company operating BitShares, there's no point of reference for running a marketing campaign. So we're going to have to, as a community, take that role upon ourselves, I think. So there's
he's also pointing out the fact that the beyond the foundation is not as responsive as a spokes, and it's basically the whole purpose of the foundation is to act as a clearinghouse for information, for official information.
Yeah.
And when it was requested, he didn't get a response. Now I'm not sure what the details of that are, but that's what IntelliGuy just posted here, at least.
Yeah. So the people who are attempting to coordinate things aren't being responsive. So often if there's an unresponsive leader, it can be, in many cases, worse than no leader at all, because people try to engage with the leader, but if the leader's not responding, then it's doing a detriment to the entire ecosystem. Whereas if there was everyone organizing amongst themselves instead of trying to coordinate through a leader, then
Yes.
Then we would be doing better than we are, I think.
And I think, this is the thing.
Yeah, it's another true point, IntelliGuy.
It's why
because
we bring
there's
these
a face.
tools. It's why we're doing this as far as the tools and offering, because we have the technology, and it's kind of silly to me that we don't have, like, we have the ability to basically already have smart media tokens, or at least some form of them already between BitShares and Steem and Whale Shares and Golos, all of them, really. So it's like, to me, this is why we go in this direction, because kind of like what you're saying, Harrison, it's like you have to find a way of empowering everybody and giving them all a reason to become a leader in and of themselves. And, you know, a lot of people tend to forget that just the fact of even like getting good at making memes, it is a skill, you know, like you get good at that. Now you have that.
It's a very important
now the
skill.
entire community is stronger. They're all closer to being their own leaders. And then once they've taken a few steps, most people will generally go, wait a second, it's not as hard to be a leader as I thought. So just doing these couple things.
That's exactly the process I went through. So when I started out, before I made the Ezira project, I participated in an infographic competition from Peer Plays. And through the process of doing that infographic, I sort of learned that they were a lot easier to make than they looked, and that that it would be possible for me to just make media content like this when I thought it was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it is hard to get started, right?
Yeah.
There's that big step where it's like you have to like learn how to hold the pencil. You know what I mean? Like at first, writing is like holding the pencil in the right way and finding the right way to hold it, and like those little intricacies do matter. But once you've gotten over those little humps, it's easier to figure it out. You know, it's easier to go through it, and you only gain skill as you keep going. And then eventually you're like, it's like been a year and you're like, I can do all these things. Why? Like, wow, you know? So IntelliGuy is bringing up, and I would urge you, IntelliGuy, to bring this up yourself, because you're bringing up as the content expert here today. But Google keyword trends for BitShares, #1 country searching it is only China, is what you're saying. And one thing that I will say is I think that's one of the reasons why we need to do community initiatives, because you have community initiatives like we can even do writing challenges and things like that, where we talk about BitShares and provide backlinks and like quality things, right? Like that actually help that stuff. And we have the tools. You know, these are the types of tools that instead of watching Zuckerberg talk about this stuff on Facebook, we just build better things than he has with our tools, you know? That's how I take it.
We have more powerful financial tools at our disposal at BitShares than any Fortune 500 company on Silicon Valley has. So they just don't realize it yet. Yeah.
So crazy.
When you think about it, the ability for us to send and receive basically any cryptocurrency from the same blockchain using obviously gateways and exchanges, it means that you honestly can manage a reasonable sized business without needing to register the business with any government, needing to have any bank account, or needing to have any sort of corporate presence.
Yep, just yourself and your community, based on the community that thinks that, you know, that actually believes in you and trusts you and your vision. God bless it.
Yeah, so another point that IntelliGuy brought up before, which is one of the other reasons why the BitShares marketing isn't quite where it could be, is because he brought up that the reason Ethereum is in the media more is because Vitalik Buterin is easy to photograph. He's on stage all the time, and he's at media events with a microphone. So that's a very important point. He is the face of Ethereum, and there isn't really a face of BitShares.
Nope, well, there's no public face of BitShares. But we have discussed this from time to time about hiring different people to be that face. So that hasn't happened yet. And we do have marketing, like IntelliGuy said, we do have marketing going on. There's plenty of effort. I mean, look at what Stan and Michael are doing. They're huge into promoting BitShares behind the scenes, but we don't have that public face. They're not recognized as the leaders per se, at least not by the community. There's no push to have a representative or a focal point for what BitShares is in terms of a person or in terms of a go-to kind of thing.
Yeah, so that's one of the problems that I took note of with BitShares quite a while ago, and that's why I have in the Ezira project, it's going to include a mechanism on chain to elect a CEO to act as the public face of Ezira. So that'll be elected by users on chain with an election every year. So that was one of the things that I noticed as a problem with BitShares that could be solved using cryptographic mechanisms.
Yeah, I think that here's the thing. I think we've had these tools, but they started out with Steem, right? And Steem, for obvious reasons, and for better or worse, I don't know. I'm not all wise. I have my opinions. We all know them. But for better or worse, it is not something that represents BitShares, right?
No.
But it's the technology of a mutual aid society. Right. And the mutual aid society concept is so simple and elegant and beautiful that in and of itself is a very powerful tool. And if we use those correctly, we essentially, like you said, we have more powerful tools than Fortune 500 companies. You know, just the fact that
we really do.
Out.
That's not an exaggeration.
No, it's not.
We really do. We don't have to wait. We don't have to. This is the biggest one for me right now. My Australian dollar bank account literally does not process any exchange transfers. They just turn off completely after 5 p.m. and on weekends. So money just stops. The stock market stops on the weekend. The Forex market stops on the weekend. The trading market for stocks and Forexes. It doesn't run overnight. It doesn't run on weekends. We have a 24/7 financial system.
And that even brings in more time for manipulation, right? Like, it's one of the key things. Like, sure, they can do things like start up the market and be there, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, being right there next to the servers on Wall Street at the same time.
Yeah, that's
having the after hours markets and all these different, like, it just, it's just like so powerful in so many ways. And how do you not use it? You know, so that's where I think personally our community hasn't been given the opportunity to have that identity and to really like move in that direction, because to be frank and not to be mean about it, because there are certain things that might be valuable about centralized forums, but having forums that are based on a blockchain where the community can reward one another, I think that in and of itself, you would see leaders pop up. The problem I think sometimes that BitShares does have is that community people, it's like sometimes you can't always say what the ROI is going to be, especially on community initiatives like meme challenges, you know, but you have to reward those things. So I think that that's one of the tools that, you know, what you're doing with Ezira, which we should probably get into next, since it's about that time, would be to be able to use those tools, to be able to use all these different networks and reward people and have them holding a diversified portfolio of different communities they love, right? And we can all power that by BitShares. And I think that we're going to get there. I just think that I do see where IntelliGuy's coming from, though. Any thoughts from any people before in closing before like maybe who haven't said anything before?
Yeah, let's hear a few new voices. Hi, IntelliGuy, we can hear you barely.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
Yes, there we go. He speaks. Okay.
It's such perfect timing.
Bring down the hammer. There we go.
Okay.
You know, I feel like I was like in one of those dark garages where I'm like kidnapped and I've got a thing on my mouth and my arms are tied to the chair and I'm watching this evolve. And it's like, this is your show, buddy, and you can't even talk. Listen, okay, I know that there's a lot of passion and there's a lot of goodwill by a lot of people. The problem is that a lot of people expect us that, okay, somebody else is doing it already, or, you know, I'm watching the proposals go through. This guy's already on it. This guy talked about it last week. We can all just sit back and do nothing. And the problem that we have is that there's a lot of good people out there with good resources. People like, you know, by Compound Films and you know, Mr. Wang and, You know, like I can start listing off lots of names, but there's people with talents should be helping us. And instead of just allowing like the same kind of group of people that are vocal about marketing be part of this, anybody could be looking at us. I got upset one day when I started doing Google searches for our BitShares. And I went to a YouTube channel, and there was a guy that was sending out, has bought, you know, by the dozens, BitShares is a scam, it doesn't pay. He was talking about a company called bit-shares.cc, which was some investment company to grow your Bitcoin. But what my problem was is that he got bigger exposure for the latest videos on BitShares than anybody else did. And I was like, all right, let's look a little deep in this. Like, how many searches are there for Ethereum? How many searches are there for BitShares? What is the top countries for this? Let's do some demographic searches. And what I found was the top country is China, and there's no wonder why. BitCrab and his team and stuff is doing lots of marketing in China. That doesn't translate to English very well. And, you know, the amount of work that the rest of us is doing doesn't translate very well. So I went to the BitShares Foundation website and asked the question, is BitShares in charge of marketing? BitShares Foundation in charge of marketing? Kinda yes, but even their own website reads like something like a white paper that you would read. It's not very marketing friendly in itself. So I was like, okay, what are they doing? Well, they got a $45,000 proposal in to do a bunch of work again. We're going to build this, we're going to fix that, we're going to do this documentation, this. And then we'll get to the marketing of BitShares. And I'll tell you something. The number one thing that happened is that Peercoin was number 3 on CoinMarketCap for a long time. And they went to number 4 and number 5. Do you want to know why Peercoin is like at 136 today? Because they constantly said, we need more documentation, we need a better UI, we need to do this, we need to do that. And Peercoin is at 136 now. And they said, well, when we're ready, we're going to start marketing all the way back up again. But it's going to be too late for that. So I'm going to let somebody get an edgewise. I'm glad that I got this conversation out. And I'm very serious about organizing just a team, or anybody that's interested in this kind of thing can send email to intelliguy@tuta.io or find me on Discord. And if you're passionate, want to help out, let me know.
From my perspective, the let me get my mouth empty here. Somebody else go.
Is it possible to get a worker proposal for marketing?
That would be stage 2. Stage 1 is to find everybody that has a talent, is interested in, is somebody. We need to build a team for that worker proposal, because worker proposals don't by themselves sound great, but I think what quite often they do is they just leak cash out of the blockchain, and very little gets done on time. With the exception of
I think what we
with
have
the exception of Fox. I want to clarify, Fox is doing a great job.
We have a lot of individuals that have individual talents, you know, like you mentioned, the different video guys, Mr. Wang, etc. We all have talents that we're good at doing, but we don't have anybody that kind of can say, I'm going to be a leader of these guys. I'm going to organize these guys and help them, you know, facilitate their talents by you know, organizing their efforts together. We don't have that overall sense of organization. It's been attempted several times, but it hasn't worked out very easily. I mean, we're in a decentralized project that everybody's talents might be obvious as to what they can do, but in terms of putting them together as a team to where we complement each other, that's the part that's missing.
I think that politics and the fact that there are very few people who have the majority of the votes, coupled with voter apathy, kind of create a stew where it's hard for somebody to be a self-motivated person who is helping create value in the ecosystem and getting rewarded for it and feeling like the feedback loop connects back up with them. And that's exactly, I think, where we're going with the, I mean, think about it, guys. We have tokens between two chains. We've been talking about Voltron since the beginning. And we have these tokens right now that, though rudimentary, are still quite powerful and will eventually exist as a smart contract. And we're already we're just touching the surface with utility coins, and these are based on BitShares. So I think you guys are seeing it starting to happen. It just never happens as fast. Building a guild never happens as quickly as you would think it does, is I guess my point. But whenever you can pass out DKP, you can build friggin' guilds, baby. Like, big guilds have been built, like very big guilds. So
I agree. Just to tie in those both of your points, Fuzzies, and also IntelliGuys, I think I agree with the main thrust of IntelliGuys' idea, which is, I think if you see an opportunity and it's not clear that it's being addressed by somebody else, I think people should go for it. And then there are two things which are both a pro and a con about it. It's a double-edged sword. One is you can go ahead and do it, but one, it's possible that whatever you're marketing or advocating might not be completely correct or may not have the complete support of the community. But then that's tied into the second point. If you fund it yourself, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly.
So, I mean, hopefully you want to be accurate. You don't want to promote anything that's false. But if you're funding it yourself, you can do it whatever the heck you want. It's only at the point where you're perhaps getting, funding from, let's say, the reserve pool, that you then need to get appropriate support from the stakeholders.
I even think myself that BitShares would almost do better to allow people to hold and gain the stake themselves and have it into a pool where they can actually give out for their own workers. I enjoy the idea of letting people control their money, like, on a more local level, or at least a portion of it. I think that we could have some potential things that would fix things, though. But anyway, real quickly, Steam Power Picks is a guy who is an internet marketing guru himself. Do you have anything that you'd like to say, Steam Power? Or would you like me to read what you just said?
Well, I mean, that's basically it. You have, like we've talked about this many times here in the BitShares Hangout, and also if you're doing over in EOS and stuff in the beginning, but the efforts need to be coordinated. Everything right now is scattered. People are kind of promoting what parts of BitShares or the community or their certain tokens, things that benefit their own missions and developments and worker proposals and things like that. It's not a coordinated effort to promote the brand, just like IntelliGuy wrote a while back up, where, Vitalik is that face, he is the brand. You're promoting something central. So that's kind of the point that I made when I was just saying that. And also later on in Taco's section, I had put up that topic about the BBF doing this overall presentation where they're saying, we need the general public presentation proposal. That's what they put together, where they're basically taking a couple of different domains: BitShares.legal, .works, .foundation, .exchange, and then of course their own BitShares Talk. But each one of those things will be developed to help coordinate the brand, coordinate the information, the documentation that everybody's been talking about, where it comes, basically we talked about, you need more information, how to use the tutorials, all these things. They're supposedly proposing to build these things out in these different domains that they're coming up. So that was a topic that I dumped towards the end in Taco's section that we can bring up as well later on. But Fox has his thing, BBF is doing their thing after taking control of some of the domains, but it needs to be coordinated. Everyone can't be running off in their own direction doing something. It needs to be a coordinated effort, because BitShares is a brand that needs to be promoted as such. That's kind of
I agree 100%. That's where the difficulty is we just don't seem to have the people that are willing or able to coordinate the efforts of others. It's not easy in a decentralized project like this, but that's what I think is lacking. I think you nailed it.
Let me just really quickly, before we move forward, let me just say, I think that we have the potential right now, like for instance, with things like the meme contests and things like that, right? We can create kind of an idea around something. We can say, okay, let's frame everything under this topic or this theme, and then have an arsenal of everybody that everybody can grab from. And you can kind of keep that unified message if you keep those archives easily accessible by people, and give, try to keep a standard message to it. Like, obviously you don't want things like that are absolutely terrible for BitShares being advertised along with BitShares, like bit-shares, for instance, and stuff like that. But once you have that standard in a community aspect, like doing like initiatives and things like that, we can build up our war chests with with tools that almost, because they exist, there's no reason to make other ones. So a standardization kind of by default sets in. I think we do have those people, is my point, and I think we just haven't been rewarding them in the best ways, just because of the nature of that kind of job, which is why I think various MASDACs that help BitShares, because I think that's one of the beginning phases to us having many leadership phases, and I think we're finding answers anyway.
Well, look at what Fox has done for the core development team. I mean, he had some grandiose plans. It took him a while to get them all formulated and published, but he's got that done, and he's moving forward. And that's the rallying effort. He's coordinating the efforts of these other people who are already doing many great things on their own, but now he's putting some organization to it, so that the thrust of that effort can be much more solidified and can accomplish much more because of that coordination.
Yeah, I won't lie. I think that, the people who are who are in high up leadership positions, they need to kind of and I like the steps that the BitShares Foundation is taking, which we'll get into. But these are things I think we are marching in the right direction, I guess is my point. And I think we're covering it in a spectrum of various solutions. So that makes me kind of giddy, actually. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on, because this topic, for obvious reasons, became a little bit longer, but it's something that obviously when IntelliGuy came back on, he had it. I wanted to give him the opportunity to say something. So the Has 159 is up next, and he's going to be talking about the Ezira project and the updates. And he's spoken a little bit earlier, aka you guys will hear me refer to him as Harrison in here. But please feel free to step up, Harrison, and give your updates.
Yeah, so I did discuss Ezira a tiny bit earlier, but I'll keep this fairly quick. So in the last couple of weeks, Ezira has been running an open source hangout similar to the BitShares open source hangout, where we discuss our weekly updates to the project. And this week we'll be running the hangout this time tomorrow, so Sunday at 1 p.m. UTC. And a few of the updates we've had this week are that we're going to be having a competition announced for the Ezira project's community challenge, essentially, where we're allowing our community members to post some of the Ezira infographics across Twitter and Facebook, and they can be receiving some Ezira tokens for the one that gets the highest likes and retweets. So we're reaching out to new people through that channel. We also had a press release released from AMB Crypto describing the Ezira project to a new audience, particularly in the Indian audience. AMB Crypto is quite an influential crypto news platform in the Indian scene. So we're reaching out to a new part of the user base through that press release. We've had ongoing efforts to build an explainer video. So that should be coming out either tomorrow or the next day, an explainer video for the Ezira project. And we've been continuing our fundraising efforts. So the Ezira token is going to be crowdfunding the Ezira project with a raise of $500,000 US. And that crowdfunding campaign has been ongoing. And I think it's picking up steam in the last few weeks. So yeah, we're looking to continue on with the project to develop the Pioneer testnet release, and we're mainly focusing at the moment on expanding out the community. But yeah, over the next few weeks and months, we'll be building out the testnet release and hopefully there should be more developments on that front going forward. But for now, we're focusing on building the community behind it, because essentially at Ezira, the technology is mostly already there, but we're building the community around it to be much more inclusive and vast than the Steerbit and BitShares community, by bringing the technology understanding level necessary for the project right down to a minimum. So I'll keep it fairly quick this week, and I'll hand it back to you, Fuzzy.
Okay, well, I appreciate the fact that the Ezira network is doing what they're doing and what you're doing with what you're doing. And I already said it, I think everybody noticed a little bit, but they're discussing something else too. But I want to just make it clear that what you're doing is you utilize the tools that are available to you. And you're consistently coming in and showing people what you're talking about, what you're doing, that you're continuing to do things, that you're continuing to move forward, right? And now you're even taking it to another step, and you're having your own hangouts, you're discussing all this stuff, and people can see that you have passion, you understand what you're talking about, which is something that 99.9% it seems of crypto projects in the space never do. And sure, they make money short term because they're mostly pump and dump schemes, right? But the ones that last are going to last, or at least are going to have the highest success rates, which means like the best portfolio for you to diversify into or add to your tokens to add to your portfolio, are the ones that have people like what Harrison's doing, taking those tools and doing what he's doing and continuing to do it, whether people are there to help or not. Because eventually there are going to be people who do help him and continue gaining steam as there's more people that are already doing it, right? You can see with the updates that he's already been giving. And if all of these different tokens are going to be connecting with BitShares in some way, then these are the types of leaders that we were just kind of talking about. Does that kind of make sense to everybody, and why Beyond Bitcoin is trying to bring people like that onto the network to become their own leader, and why we're doing this as a template from the very beginning like this? Does it kind of start making sense, everybody? Like this is kind of, and because I knew that there were people like you out there, Harrison, and I know there are people out there who are thinking in the same ways and covering that niche of value, which is a very powerful niche. I think you said it in a very good way in the very beginning when you said before the hangout, you said, I think at some point in time, some of the people who most of the people in crypto who really understand how to use it and the power of it started out in MMOs. And I believe, and I agree with that to a large degree. I'm not going to say that's all cases, and I know that you don't think that either. But I will say that if you looked at it statistically, I'm pretty confident to say that some of the people who are like at the highest echelons of understanding how to use this stuff are people who have been gamers and have been on online economies and have learned how to exist in economies that completely change and are not always different, are not always very similar across economies, right? So these are the types of things that are really powerful tools. And people like you who are joining up and leveraging this stuff, I think this is the leadership that we're talking about. And this is the leadership I've always wanted to see, because then it also teaches everybody else, hey, you can be a leader. You just have to step up and keep doing something that you're passionate about. Never give up. And then you become a leader in your own right. And it's kind of weird how all that works out. But the point is, thank you for doing that. And for everybody who's watching this stuff and doing cool things, and you might want to have your own graphene chain and it trades on the BitShares DEX, which is the longest chain in the world, for God's sake. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, you guys should consider doing the same thing, following the same template and even iterating on that template, right? And making it better in your own ways. But take it and leverage it. This is a tool. This is something that you can leverage. But anyway, get off the soapbox, and thank you for doing what you're doing, man. Like, this is the type of stuff that we need to see more of. and we need to show people that it's easy. It's not easy, but it's easier than you think to do something of value, and you do bring value no matter who you are. So how do they get to your project, Harrison? How do they go to the website, and how do they contact you? And maybe if you can tell them a little bit about, just really quickly, just remind them the time and the date that you normally hold your Hangouts, so they can join up there too. Yep.
So to reach the Ezira project, all you need to do is go to www.ezira.io. That's EZIRA.io, Ezira.io. To reach me, you can email me at harrison@ezira.io. And to see a lot of the updates that I post and that the community post about the Ezira project, you can go to the Ezira Telegram, which is at Ezira. Has been linked, and it's something a while just designing passively, but now that I finally have the tools to bring out a community and to build what I've been designing in my head for so long, it's it's really transformative to see how big this is slowly but surely becoming. So just recently, we effectively got to the front page of Steam with the Ezira Hangout post, and that was heavily referential to BitShares. So there's been a lot of BitShares exposure the last few days because of Ezira. There's also an ongoing Ezira faucet. So if you go to Ezira.io and you sign up with your BitShares address, everyone who signs up with their email address and their BitShares address will get one Ezira for free. And there's also a competition that Ezira is running called the April Community Challenge, where anyone, anywhere can post one of the Ezira use case infographics, which is the model that I hope to start bringing to BitShares. The Ezira use case infographics, if you share those to either Facebook or Twitter with an Ezira tag and a short description of why you think it's your favorite and why you relate personally to that use case, then there's a chance for the winner, whoever gets the most likes and retweets on their image, to win a share in 500 Ezira. So that's 300 to the winner of the most likes and retweets or shares if it's on Facebook, and 100 each to two randomly selected winners from the entire campaign. So that competition is being drawn out tomorrow in the Ezira Discord Hangout, and you can listen to the Ezira Hangout on the Ezira Discord channel at 1 p.m. UTC every Sunday. So that's about 23 hours from now. We'll be announcing the winner to that competition. So there's plenty of time for everyone in the wider BitShares community to take a stab at the competition, and the Ezira community will like the particular use case graphics. And if there's support for the project, then I can definitely leverage the marketing that I've been doing with Ezira to go back to the core BitShares brand, which is something that I think I should, but I'm going to start doing that. So I'll hand it back to you, Fuzzy.
Well, thank you very much for joining up, and thank you to everybody who joins up to these Hangouts. We discuss things that are of importance within the community, and we try to offer people a platform where they can join up and talk about the things that they think personally are important. And that sometimes even means things that are not necessarily considered the best things in the network. We try to be honest with ourselves about the things that we can do, the things that we need to improve. But as a community, it is an effort, and it takes all of you to be part of that effort. So I thank all of you who are sharing our content, who are sharing the content in turn of all the people who join these weekly Hangouts. We talk a lot about meetups and meetups in person, and those are wonderful, and they're very powerful and absolutely essential. But I think a lot of the time we also need to recognize that there's a lot of people who don't have opportunity to do those things. So we kind of offer that ability as a community, like the Ezira Network, Steam, EOS, BitShares. All these different Hangouts are there for people to keep up to date even if they can't join live, or to join live even if they can't travel to a local meetup. It's kind of a place where everybody can keep up to date with some of the things that are most important in BitShares and keep themselves abreast and thinking about those topics. And I really appreciate everybody who's really helping to push that. So, and to be frank, if you haven't done that, consider taking a moment, even if it's something, if you catch yourself complaining about something in BitShares, take that moment and say, that energy would be better spent sharing this content or sharing the things that this community is doing, because it's all about all of us together working on these things and individually empowering the community as well, and ourselves. So with that said, thank you very much to all of you. Thank you to Harrison. Really quickly, I think we have about 10 minutes left. So let's go ahead and cover. Talkinator had 3 different topics. We talked a little bit about one of them, and the other 2 shouldn't take too long to get into. But Talkinator, are you able to step up and talk about your 3 topics for the day?
Sure. I came in a little late, so I don't know which of the 3 were already discussed.
We talked a little bit about the BitShares Blockchain Foundation, but it was in connection to marketing directly. So, I mean, there's other stuff to this. So,
sounds good. So I will interrupt me if I am not hitting what you were thinking about. So I was proposing to first talk about the GUI reference wallet. This has been prepared by the GUI team, and they have actually, it's been a while since we last discussed their releases. So I think maybe roughly since the last time we discussed it, they've come out with approximately 5 or 6 releases that are available. And each one continually improves and either adding new features or addressing bugs that have been observed along the way. Bill Butler, who heads the team, he posts about what are in the new releases, and you can find them on his Steemit page, which is Bill Butler. You can also, if you want to go into some more details, of course, you can go onto the GitHub page for the GUI development and get all the nitty-gritty details. But roughly, there were 6 points that were recently brought up in their releases over the past 2 months. This included modifications to the withdraw window to make it easier, more obvious, and intuitive. There have also been improvements to loading long lists of assets. Sometimes, if there's a long list of assets, it can take a while to appear within the GUI. So that's another part that's been improved. Also, working on connections between the GUI interface, what you see, and also the backend API node that it's connected to. So there's actually been a lot of work going on, and it's an interaction between the GUI team and the core team in order to improve those connections. I think at the moment, a lot of it has occurred on the GUI side. So that's also positive. And there have been bug fixes as well. And also one last point that he brought up, which was a new focus on the user experience and the user interface related to worker proposals and budgets. So these are all the high-level improvements in the GUI reference wallet.
Well, Bill Butler is a BitShares worker, and he has been doing a lot of stuff on the BitShares GUI for quite some time now. So it's good to know that all these different updates are coming out and to see that they're continually updating things.
Absolutely.
Especially with the worker proposal budget directly in the interface. I think those are the types of things that will make it easier for governance, because on the user experience side, we all know that even getting somebody to make a vote in and of itself is tough enough. So
yeah, and also on that point, just as a reminder for anybody who is possibly new, within the GUI interface, you have the option to go and vote with your, considering the BTS tokens, which represents your governance stake. you can go and vote for either witnesses or committee members or different worker proposals. That's in there.
And let's face it, everywhere else in crypto, what are your choices in governance? Pretty much everywhere else are buy your token and hold it and suck it up, whatever the governance changes are, or sell it. Those are your options. So very valuable stuff. So does anybody have anything else that they'd like to mention on this topic? Taco, do you have anything that you'd like to mention on this topic that we haven't covered?
No, not on this topic.
Okay, so do you feel like maybe we can move on to the DEXBot then?
Yep, I think so. And then here, this is just a brief introduction to the DEXBot, and I think, I hope that the DEXBot team will come and elaborate on this further. But since they had just recently announced that there was a beta for the DEXBot, which is the DEXBot is being funded as a worker by BitShares, and a beta for Linux users was recently put out, and I think also a beta for Windows users will come out within a few weeks. Just to give a brief recap about it, here's a quote that we saw by CryptoKong on Telegram. The quote is, "DEXBot is free to use, market-making software created and funded by the BitShares community so that anyone can try and profit while also providing liquidity to the various markets that are available on the DEX. Work is ongoing and moving forward, and there will be a variety of strategies to choose from. There's already one strategy that is currently available within the DEXBot tool, and you can try it out yourself. And if you need any support, support is currently being provided on a particular channel on Telegram called DEXBot BTS, DEXBOT BTS, and it's just there for anybody to try out. And I think they might be coming on soon to elaborate further."
Yeah, I think that it's something that bots in general, if you use them safely, and you can use them safely in terms of at least ensuring that you don't lose too much, or that you make money, you can pretty much set a bot and kind of dissociate yourself from the swings and the emotions of the market, and just set price points and then walk away. And that's very valuable, not only to you, but also for the ability to create volume on the DEX, which makes the BTS that you hold more valuable. So just something to think about. DEXBot and bots like it, the easier they are to use, obviously, the better. But these are the types of things that can really, really help, an exchange. And some people might be against bots, but I just have to say it. Every market has bots that market make. And I don't know if you would see tight spreads on most markets without something like this in crypto. So at the very least, it's good for training wheels, at the very least, in my opinion. Anybody else have any thoughts on it, or Taco?
Yes. I have a question for Taco. Have you tried running it?
I was actually about to go try it today.
Oh, well, do you have some information about like the strategies they use?
There is currently one strategy, and I don't have details about it.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so hey, Jim. No, you have not missed the hangout. You're still in it, actually. But Talkinator, do you feel like we've covered the DEXBot for now, and then we can maybe go on to the final topic, which is the BBF launches BitShares public presentation plan?
Yes, and that is fine with me. And that particular topic suggestion is, I believe, brought up by Steam Power, if I'm not mistaken.
Steam Power Picks is more than welcome to speak up as well. I'm not trying to tell either of you how to do it.
Okay, yeah, I was just jumping in and putting that as a topic. Wasn't sure how much everyone else knew about it, but it was announced that, let me just grab the slide in here for everyone, about the BBF launching this public presentation plan. And this went back to the earlier topic with IntelliGuy. In some way, where you want to do your marketing and presentation and how you actually show off to the public what BitShares is and how it works. So I found it was interesting when they had their release that they put out, basically talking about there's a link to right there, basically the different domain names that they were getting and how they were splitting it up. Like there's a .legal, .works, .foundation, .exchange, and then the actual forums that they have. And the .works, BitShares.works would be the community managed side of things. And if I just read it, says this domain is meant to become the main hub of end user information, and this will contain user guides, instructions, tutorials, as well as some basic technical documentation. And it's supposed to be a community driven side of everything. So I thought that was interesting that, if we have Fox's efforts and over here in the BBF, if they actually take these initiatives and start doing some of these things and putting together through their own proposals, the larger discussion of how do you present BitShares out to the public, so get people to come in, make it more user friendly, and a lot of the stuff that they're talking about, even through the Foundation, the legal side, and the works, they were going to kind of combine some of those efforts, which is what we were looking for, to actually make things where people can come in, find what they need, learn how to do it, and the community is actually helping put forward those front-end facing documentations and tutorials to help people in. Because I know on the whale share side, we have a bunch of us over in Discord that, half of our day is spent onboarding people to BitShares as new members come into our Discord. Crazy Chris that jumps out, the first thing she grabs them is, hey, you on BitShares? I'll throw some tokens at you. And that's how we get them on. We actually share some of the whale shares tokens with them, introduce them to the DEX, teach them how to set up the account and do that first transaction to use it as a utility upvote token on their post. And we take on some of that responsibility. But if we weren't there to actually handhold them, there's nothing to show them how to get on the DEX and how to actually manage it and use it and actually do those functions. So having a place like BitShares.works as a community managed section for people to put these tutorials and build it will be fantastic. And they did mention in here too about BitShares.exchange, which would also be community managed, saying that this domain will be the point of entry for BitShares blockchain and host your reference wallet, which was previously at wallet.bitshares.org. And they're open to suggestions on the UI with the BitShares UI team on how things are updated or changed to make this process easier for people, to use it and all that stuff, make it more user friendly and the whole process to onboard people faster and easier and better. And I thought it was an interesting topic because it did relate to what IntelliGuy had posted that he was going to talk about today, as far as how do you get out there and promote it. We have to have a user-friendly system in combination with going out there in a coordinated effort to actually market it. So if anyone else has any points about that.
Yeah. I think that there's things that we can actually continue to do between the whale shares community and BitShares.works and all these other projects with the foundation to help with that stuff too. I think there's a lot of different things that we can create synergy on, so I look forward to it.
Hello.
Okay, well, does anybody else have anything that they'd like to mention about this or talk about with this? I can go deeper into it and talk about it, but obviously this is for the entire community. So even if, I'll tell you what, if you haven't talked yet, I'll give you 5 Beyond Bits if you say something for 10 seconds that makes sense about the BitShares Blockchain Foundation.
Were you trying to say something, IntelliGuy?
I don't think so.
Am I coming through now?
You're breaking up a little bit, but we're hearing.
Oh, that's what's going on.
Okay. So what I was saying is that I understand the point of documentation, multiple websites, user guides, friendly how-to videos. That's definitely one avenue of marketing and promotion. So a lot more that has to be done as far as being a liaison to the media. That I think is lacking. There has to be more of a PR person. And you're like, well, there is a PR person. It's written all over the function. Well, I wrote an email multiple days ago
Hey,
to the
IntelliGuy.
Nothing.
We can't hear you, buddy. Like you're sounding like you're in the Matrix in that point when when he goes into the Matrix, or the Matrix rather goes into him.
Your OS is messing you up, buddy.
Yeah. So I think
maybe
to
try to carry it with some of his ideas as best as I could make of them. I think maybe he was trying to promote the idea or discuss the idea of that there are different PR and marketing efforts. And perhaps they're not necessarily, and connecting it to what we were discussing earlier, they are possibly need to be handled by different efforts and possibly people. My impression is BBF has a conservative approach for various reasons, and I think they need. So that's appropriate and fine. So I think once people hear about BitShares, I think BBF is kind of promoting, okay, this is clearly very well defined what BitShares is. And separately, I think there is kind of what we were talking about earlier, which is promotional material and how to reach people and make them first aware of it. And that could be done by flashier approaches and by different people. And so maybe that's hopefully what IntelliGuy was kind of talking about.
Well, I think part of what he was talking about was that different materials are necessary depending on what focus you have. If you're trying to reach a legal community, then you're going to have a different presentation and different tools that you're going to need to reach them versus people that are trying to stimulate interest by the general public. Those are just two examples.
Makes sense.
One thing I was going to say, though, is, for example, like what CryptoCentric is doing as far as even marketing BitShares is, I'm formulating a brick and mortar. I'm formulating also a brick and mortar facility. You're talking about general public interest. Rather than waiting for the offline communities to come online and search through this, basically a library of information, because that's what the internet is. So when you expect the general public to find BitShares online, you're expecting them to search through the Library of Alexandria and find this software. Where, I think even things like what I'm doing is taking an initiative of bringing this software to their face and also implying it into their own businesses. Even if they're a local coffee shop person, make it a part of their lives by implying it and integrating it into their everyday life through their business. If they're a coffee shop, they can offer coupon rewards through the BitShares user-issued asset and, things like that. And that's what I'm trying to promote. Obviously, it's very difficult to get someone who's not familiar with blockchain software and runs a coffee shop to integrate this. But things like Moneytronics, where we've been integrating it into real estate, and actually CryptoCentric too is taking the initiative of being more of a real estate property investment company, integrating blockchain. And actually from, the funds I've collected through just speculative, getting in and out of crypto markets, I plan to even invest in real estate myself and then have people even pay rent in cryptocurrency. It could be that simple. Or BitShares, also planning on offering more properties, through the, BitShares user issued asset. People have the ability to invest in other properties as well. Things like that, offering more products. Also, CryptoCentric is working on a website called, right now it's not launched yet, but mycouponcoins.com. Basically what we're doing is we're giving away tokens or coupon coins every time someone makes a purchase for our merchandise. And then basically that works as almost like raffle tickets. And then you could purchase an item once you work up enough coupon coins. So if you get 100 of them, then you could buy an item that's worth that much in dollar bills. So
I think
And these are the
great.
types of. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry, we might be saying the same thing. I think these are the kinds of efforts, right, where individual businesses, let's say, and or communities can, out of their own interest, are promoting themselves and BitShares simultaneously. It's a beautiful synergy.
Yep.
Exactly. Because
promoting them.
Sorry, go ahead, Fuzzy. Oh yeah, but what I was gonna say is that because we're leveraging from both angles, we have the ability to make money through our efforts by selling merchant or products or even real estate or property. And, you know, also too is I see interest in promoting BitShares just as a part of it. Promotes my business as well, because, you know, would it be nice to get leverage from the community in the funding of what we're doing? Yes, of course. But I don't know if I think the politics, what we say with the blockchain protocol, I think what stops whales from just donating to these projects, maybe not working so intently through the blockchain protocol in the sense of backing these things. Because right now, just what I'm doing, I'm funding this myself. You know, I'm putting down the security deposit, putting in furniture, investing, you know, tens and twenties of thousands of dollars of my own capital, taking my own risk and adding value to this platform on my own. It's one of those, and you know, having employees, all this stuff. I think it's much greater of an initiative than the foundation is taking, and that's nothing against them and what they're doing, but it's kind of silly that, you know, there's so much more effort coming in other directions, and then funding goes the other way. Not that I don't even seek it. As far as what I'm doing, because what I'm doing, no matter what, it's moving forward. But at the same time, I think it would help the community.
Yeah, that I kind of like having the mutual aid societies and stuff like that, and or a business that you build. Harrison's talking about how Ezira's doing it. There's the ability to do this stuff, and I actually see value in both. Personally, I think that there is value in the BitShares Foundation doing something but I think it has to be vanilla and really just focus on BitShares, but then leave it up to the people who are experts on various topics, like what you're talking about, like with the real estate. You're getting that demographic in, right? Yep. That you are an expert in BitShares who is also an expert in real estate. So you appeal to that demographic so well, and that markets BitShares, right? And it marks and across multiple different expertise, spheres of expertise, you get a very wide net and spectrum of coverage if we leverage that model, right? So with that said, I appreciate everybody joining up today. It never fails. It's so hard to keep it to an hour because of various things that come up in various conversation topics that we shouldn't overlook. But I think we did a pretty good job today covering the various things that are going on between all the people who are here and how they are going to affect BitShares in some of the updates. I appreciate you talking, Nader. I appreciate you, Harrison and Teleguy. I thank you for joining up and talking about what you're talking about, fighting through the mic issues. And thank you for everybody who makes these possible. I really cannot express enough. We don't really need upvotes. What I love to do is I love to reward people for helping in our initiatives more than anything, and also sharing our content. Your time and your care toward helping the projects that help us exist and grow, and show people that people can empower themselves and have a network of people who support them. Getting that message out for Beyond Bitcoin is one of the biggest things you can do, and supporting the people who are supporting Beyond Bitcoin and who are part of that movement and who are openly part of that movement and transparently part of that movement and accountably part of that movement. So I appreciate everybody who does contribute to these. And I just ask you all, obviously, to continue letting other people know who you think this might resonate with, because this is how we really step forward and start moving into the future. is through you guys and through all of us collectively working or individually working for maybe a collective betterment or empowerment. So thank you everybody for joining up, and we will see you all next Saturday. And I guess it's time for the the after party. And we'll see you guys next week.